Hello and welcome back to another episode of What Sticks with Sid. I have so many sticky notes today. I'm hoping I can get through them. But first I wanted to introduce, so I started an Instagram. It was the same one I had started a year ago, didn't follow anyone, didn't do anything with it. And then I'm like, hey, this is still here. I'm gonna pick this back up and I'm getting excited. I'm posting about the episodes and then I'm starting like this new little series. After each episode, I want to post about who and what's sticking. And I will post like people that I mention or podcasts or things that I'm listening to that I either quote or mention during the episodes. And I am having a really hard time listening back. So I did this for the first episode that I revamped, so episode number 5. The Fresh Start episode is what it's called. And I did this on my Instagram, and I am currently working on the last episode that I recorded, episode 6, that is chronic overthinking. And I need to go back and re-listen though, because I remembered everything in the first episode and I was like, oh, I want to post about like all the fun things I did in the new year and stuff that I said that was working and stuff like that. And I got all excited and I had all these pictures to go along with it, and I'm like, hey, what if I start posting so people like can actually go and not only see like my subjects, like my sticky notes, the topics and things, but they can also like have a reference and like follow or look further into whatever I am talking about, if anything piques your interest. So I thought that'd be fun, and I kind of on a whim did that as I was doing my first Instagram post. And so I need to go back and listen to episode number 6, and I am having a really hard time like sitting down and actually listening to myself. Like I still kind of feel like that cringy feeling of, because I've mentioned that I'm just recording and uploading. I'm not editing right now. I'm just trying to follow through on this desire to just share, and like this is something that's for me and it's fueling me and feeling fulfilling for me. It's not necessarily for anything else other than that. And so I'm trying to stick to that and just be like, you know what, like this is for me. I want to record, I want to talk about these things, and I want to be able to share it with my friends and family that I don't always get to see all the time, that I wish I could see more. And it's a way of us like kind of keeping in touch and feeling like we're still chatting, and it just opens up conversation, which I love, and ultimately creates connection, right? So I wanted to introduce the who and what's sticking is what I'm calling it. And then I will be posting that on my Instagram if you want to follow. I believe it's just What Sticks with Sid. You should be able to find it. I will put it in the description in this YouTube video though, just in case. So, okay, let's jump into the sticky notes. So the first one, and you know, my first section is lately. So lately for me personally, I have, of course, the new year is still swirling for me. I've mentioned so many times how much I love the new year energy. And I've been thinking of like what I want to bring into my life, like for this new year. Like what do I want to be intentional about and to manifest for 2026 for myself. And so I have been doing it's called a challenge, and it is in a workshop that I subscribed to, maybe like six-ish months ago. I'd say it was like this last summer, but I've been following these people. They are called To Be Magnetic. I've been following this company for years. I started off by a friend randomly saw one of their podcasts. It's called Expanded, and it was on her For You like suggestions, and it was so crazy, so aligned with what we were like specifically talking about at that time, that she was like, holy cow, I feel like this podcast like found us, and she sent it to me. And ever since then, I have, at certain phases of my life when I need something like beyond me, like I need expansiveness, I need to like listen to something that also like kind of fills that metaphysical box for me, or like that arena. I don't know how I'd say that, but I listen to this podcast. So it's called Expanded. I will post it in the who and what's sticking. So anytime I mention something like that, that's what I'm going to be posting. So anyways, but they have like a neuroscience on staff. They have like, they study epigenetics, which is like things that we carry down in our genes. And anyways, I wrote it down so I could actually say how they talk about what they do. So they say that they're neuroscience-backed method that neuroscience-backed methods that help you rewire limiting beliefs, expand your worth, and step into your worth. And the reason I wrote this one down is because they do challenges every 6 months, and they usually do a like 6-month challenge, and they have like this crazy success rate of people who like fulfill the challenge. And actually, like, part of their challenges is you get an accountability partner that is like in there to be magnetic workshop, or like they call it their pathway membership, like their monthly subscription. So you have someone that like understands the language that is also doing the challenge with you, but like it's not like this like accountability partner in the sense of like we need to show up every single day. It's more like you just check in, you let them know where you're at, you let them know if you want to, as much as like you can go as deep as you want. So like you can check in and give details on what you're uncovering, or you can just say, hey, I completed this one and had some really cool ahas. And it can be like you find someone in the pathway that hopefully is similar to you, like wants to share just as much as you. And so I tried to do one of their challenges in June, and I was super excited to do it, and I started. But like I had an accountability partner, and she was great, but she was in California, and our schedules, it was so crazy. I kept having all these like family emergency things going on, and she kept having like big life events, like her job was shifting, and we were both kind of like in the thick of it, right? And so both of our, like, we would get like this like calmness, and then all of a sudden we'd have to like react to something really quickly. So we both got to like the same point in the challenge, and then we both kind of like fell off from each other, and we both kept checking in of like, this is just such a weird time. Like, this stuff doesn't normally happen. So it was actually kind of beautiful and like serendipitous, because she was understanding and I was understanding. We were able to be empathetic. And so that kind of fizzled out for me. However, I feel like everything happens for a reason, right? I feel like this latest challenge that I picked it back up on, I've been able to approach it in such a different way, because I tried the challenge, that other challenge, and I had my personal beat up stick up or out the whole entire challenge. So basically they give you like these setup techniques of like, okay, like journal about this, and it has like all these questions. It's like answer these 10 questions with whatever pops into your head. Don't question it, don't filter it out, right? Like just answer quickly. And that would be maybe one setup. And so they usually have like 4 or 5 different things, like an intro video to watch. Answer these questions, journal about this, listen to this. They have these things called DIs, deep imaginings, which are meditations essentially. But again, they're neuroscience backed. They bring in like all these different modalities too. So like you're literally like in some of them, you are breathing in a certain manner, like breath work comes into play, which they've also studied. And then you like, some of them you like tap your leg, or you tap like your, like they'll tell you different things which activate certain pathways in your brain. All of it is so brilliant. I love it so much. They're just so dedicated, but they're also like, they want it to be science backed, not just like the metaphysical. So it's like a really good balance. And that leads me to my first sticky note is this new challenge that I've started with them is called Return to Magic. And I think this is why I'm even able to get to this point of like recording these videos. And I haven't even started the challenge yet. And it's just so cool how much has opened up and how much has shifted for me just in like the setup process. Like, and I'm on the last step of the setup process, and then I'm gonna start the like actual, this one's a 15-day challenge. And why I was saying like that other challenge might not have worked out for a reason is because, so those were, and sorry, I misquoted, they're 30-day challenges, but they roll them out every 6 months, and then people can start them however, whenever they want, and they have all this conversation about the challenges. They put out all this content to help you like work through things and stuff within like the 6 months, and then they roll out a new challenge, which is a 30-day challenge. So this is the first 15-day challenge I've seen, which for my phase in my life with my 3 young girls and running around with like preschool, kindergarten, pickup, drop off, like I feel like I saw 15-day and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so much more attainable. And I had like completely checked out during December, like holidays, right? And they had rolled out the challenge December 1st and I had missed it, which I think was also a blessing in disguise for me, because I realized the way I was approaching the last challenge, and it was a money challenge, like how you feel about money, rewiring, like how you react and feel towards money. And I felt like, so it was like a 30-day challenge. And I felt like if I didn't do day 1 and then day 2 consecutively, and like I missed a day, like that beat up stick was just out the whole time. And it was just so like, it was doing more almost like damage than good. And then I had all the things going on in like my outside world. And so my first sticky note, and this is what I have kind of gotten to with this challenge so far, is how hard just having stillness in my life is for me, and like how rough it is sitting through it. And ultimately, like what you do in these challenges is you articulate and think of something that you are going to manifest by the end of this challenge. And back to what I was saying before, their success rate with people who get like the accountability buddy that go through all like 15 days of challenge and do the entire setup process, like their success rate is like 98 point something, like 98.6, something like that. Success of people who get their manifestations within 6 months to a year after completing the challenge. And they quote that all the time because it is such a crazy statistic. But then again, it's like they know this stuff is like backed by neuroscience, and like they have studied and like they have mimicked and tweaked year over year, and they're just constantly like improving. And I tell you about all of this because it was seriously the gateway to like, I think, how I'm feeling. And I have chipped away at some of their challenges. I have not been a very consistent listener to their podcast, but I do tune in. They do like a New Year reading on the year, and they talk about like astrology and throw that kind of stuff in there too. And I always tune into those, or at least the last couple of years I have. And so like, but what they're doing, like ultimately, like when they say, and I have like on the back of this sticky note, I wanted to write down like how they vocalize and like how they share what they do. And so when they say they help you rewire your limiting beliefs and expand your worth and step into your worth. Right now, I feel like for the first time, I think ever, I am really seeing limiting beliefs in a different way. Again, like I feel like you work on one layer, you clear a layer of something like that's like all this shit that's like compiled around us that like makes us feel like we're in comparison, or it makes us feel like we can't get to our inner thoughts. It's like all this gunk that's like put on us by social media, by media, all that stuff. And once we poke through that, we can get to ourselves. But like there's so much we have to work through that like we've been wired to believe, or that we like have these limiting beliefs that we don't even realize are limiting beliefs, right? So this whole stillness part of it. So we're in these challenges, we're supposed to manifest something. And I'm like, oh, like everything that I've been working towards, like, or wanting to work towards for 2026, because, you know, I've been super gassed up and lit up and excited about this new year, that I have had a focus of like body love and self-love. But all the things that I've been wanting to do feel like kind of like more like goals. And so I've just been kind of like sitting with it. Whereas I'm so used to just jumping all in, and not just jumping all in, but like jumping all in and fast forwarding and being so committed and like hiding in whatever it is. And then I forget what it's really about. And so this stillness thing kept coming up for me, and I kept hearing it like pop up in different ways, you know, like once your brain is activated to hear something, like you hear it more, you see it more. But also I'm realizing with the whole metaphysical part of our world and our universe and like the signs we're given, yes, we are made to believe, oh, well, you're, what is it called? The part of your brain, like you're something reticular activator or something like that, is just activated. So like you want a new car and all of a sudden you see the new car everywhere. But have you ever like thought about it being like a positive thing instead of something that like writes it off? Like, have you ever thought of it being like a sign to the universe that it's the right thing, and to like continue and to like follow and to just sit with it, and like it's like could be confirmation in some sort of a way? And so I feel like we're kind of taught that like that part of this world, like we just have like the stuff we can see, but we forget about the stuff we can't see, like the metaphysical, right? Like beyond the physical. And so I'm sitting in this workshop and I'm just doing like the setup portion of it all, okay? And I'm trying not to beat myself up because I'm like, oh my gosh, I have been doing this for like, 2.5 weeks now, and I haven't even gotten to the actual challenge. However, every time that comes up, I've been trying to just be like, stick with it. Just keep going. Like, just keep going. It doesn't matter what pace. What matters is that you complete it and that you follow their methods. Like, that's what really matters. That's what ultimately matters. And it was so cool too, because I was like, I'm gonna skip the accountability buddy this time because like I have stuff going on in my life that, and all my young kids, I'm just like, oh, it's just, and I have to like put myself out there, all those things. And then again, being still with it and being like, okay, actually, I'm gonna be curious about that. My best friend from Texas, the one that I always mention, her name's Callie, all of a sudden we were talking, and she always is talking to me about how she does visualizations and she visualizes her future. And we've never really connected on like this type of stuff though. Like, we know everything about each other. We've been best friends since like 7th grade. Through multiple moves from Utah to Texas. Like, we've been through so much together and we know each other so well. But we've never really shared something like this, like that's like manifestation oriented, or like, I don't know how you'd even classify this. Like, we've never done like a challenge like this together outside of like our friendship, like that's like about our lives, I guess. I don't know if that's a good way to put it, but it was just so crazy. I was talking with her and I was telling her some of the things I was experiencing. I'd only done like one day at this point, so I'm rewinding a little bit. I'd only done one day and I was like, oh my gosh, it's making me think about this and this, and we're Marco Poloing like we do. And all of a sudden I have this like epiphany almost of like, why have you never told Callie about this or asked her? And I always get kind of hesitant with sharing the stuff I do. Because like, I don't know, I know that everyone has their own individual lives, and like based off where my life and my trajectory has led me, like that's what's led me to look into the to be magnetic stuff. And like, she has a busy life too, whatever. So I bring it up and I'm like, listen to like what your body's telling you. Like, when you hear this, if you're getting like an instant no and the timing's not right, then don't listen to anything else I say. If your interest is piqued and it feels like you're curious and like it's like an instant yes, like let me know that. And so I introduced like what the To Be Magnetic is. I'm like, I have like their Pathway membership. We can do it together. And I was like, but I'm like, this is so funny because I was just gonna skip over the accountability part, but like she had expressed that she was interested, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I felt like our two worlds were merging, like another piece of me that I don't normally share. And again, why this like these videos are so challenging for me is I do keep this part of me like very in lock and key, and then for whatever reason I get like nervous that it's not okay to talk about, that people don't understand, that like, or that people won't understand, or that I will be pegged as woo woo or like too much. Like, it's always the too much thing for me. And so, and it's funny because even saying that out loud, like I don't even feel that right now today, just like pushing through the first couple of videos, like I just feel good about just sharing all of me. And I think the whole accountability partner and like merging my, like the two pieces of my life has certainly helped with that. And so she's been doing it with me, and it's just, so I've been talking to her and processing, and that's why you want an accountability partner too, is you just like process out loud, and you have these other realizations that you wouldn't have, or like you get feedback from them that you would never give yourself. So I don't mean to be on this for so long, but this really is setting up all the future sticky notes, because this is why I am where I'm at, is that I was doing the challenges, and at first I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wake up at 5:45. I love waking up in the morning. It feels so good, and I won't have like the kiddos and all these things. And I'm waking up, and I am, first of all, ruining our sleeping schedule with the girls. They're waking up wanting mommy, coming downstairs, and it's like still dark outside at this point because it's January. And it's just, that piece wasn't really working. But I'm like, well, the more I do it, like they'll get used to it, whatever. So I'm pushing through. I'm waking up in the morning, and I'm like chipping away. I'm trying not to beat myself up for like not finishing the entire challenge myself. I guess I'm not in the days of the challenge yet, but like the setup, like, so it'll be like journal this and then listen to this and then journal how you feel afterwards, kind of a deal. And I'm just like chipping away at like part one almost. Like, so it's been several weeks, but like I'm chipping away. I'm not like beating myself up for not completing like the full entirety of the task, right? And I am noticing when I'm sitting in this stillness, in this quiet, no one's awake yet. They usually wake up the tail end when I'm done, and I'm just like sitting there trying to process. And I'm sitting there, I was having, and this is my next sticky note, I was having like bodily reactions to this, like uncomfortableness, like to where I was having to go to the bathroom, or like I literally thought I was going to throw up. And it's because I was getting deeper and deeper. And if you remember when I talk about what TBM is about, oh no, that's a different spot. They do a lot of inner child work, which is, I've known I needed to explore inner child work for a long time. But I think, again, timing was great because I needed to work through some stuff in my like more recent years before I could even go there. And so this challenge itself, it's the return to your magic. It's a lot of bringing you back to like your inner child, and like, what did you naturally gravitate towards when you were younger? Like, what did you want to do if you could do anything? Like, what did you choose to do when someone gave you options? Like, it just like brings you back, and you like, and then you do these like deep imaginings, which are the meditations on your childhood. And it like kind of brings you back to specific memories, which you like question at first why certain things come up. But I've learned over the years to just be like, okay, show me more. Okay, why am I seeing that? Whereas my biggest problem with meditation or like any type of work like this is I've always written off what I see. And I've always been like, oh, well, I saw that video last week, so of course I'm thinking of that. Or I just heard so-and-so say this word, and now this word's coming up for me, of course. But again, guys, it's kind of like the writing off the, you want the car so you see it everywhere. Spirit, I feel like, and like our guardians, our ancestors, whatever you want to say, the universe, I feel like, at least for me and my experience, that's how they actually communicate with me, is they show me experiences to lead me somewhere. Whereas before I was so shut off from receiving that, I was so hesitant to follow whatever I was being shown or that was coming forward, because I would have either like something in my head already of why that wasn't okay, or why that didn't make sense, or like, oh, that's just random. And then you write it off, and then you get taken a different direction. I have learned, and this is a stillness piece, that you just sit with it and you just say, okay, show me more, or okay, why that? Okay. And then you get more. But if you don't pull the tether, you can't see what's at the end of it. You can't see what's at the end of the string. You can't get more information. And so sometimes things will be even like, for me, I'm a very like expressive person that I am very visual, and so I will get like pictures of cartoons, like clairvoyancy, like the sight stuff, right, that pop into my head. I will also get the clairaudience stuff, which is like the hearing. I will like hear songs, which I've shared before, like, and then I pull like, okay, why are you showing me this song? Why this one line? And then it will often be like, this is why, and it will just be right there, like on the other side of you just asking and exploring. But you have to ask and explore instead of turn it off, which is what I've done majority of my life, is just turn it off and ignore. And so this is actually the perfect little segue to my next sticky note. Is I watched this video, which I will share on my Instagram as well, and it was this guy, and I see him pop up a lot, and I've recently followed him because I really like his content. But he does some sort of like trainings in person where he has like rooms full of people, and he kind of like calls them out on things and like asks them like, well, why do you feel uncomfortable, or like, why do you feel like you're not worth it? And he pulls them up on stage, and what's his name? I wrote it down. It is Julian Blanc, and he is just like, I don't know, you can tell that he's done a lot of work to find himself just based off like how like differently he dresses, and like you can see like that's who he is, like he has found who he is, and he like just embraces it. But he had this video that I just really stuck with me, and it's on being yourself versus remembering, is what I wrote down, because what he says essentially is, he brings up The Lion King, which I love so much because I love Disney movies growing up. My girlies love Disney. And the concept of us, whoa, I just dropped that. Okay. The concept of us being told to be yourself, and us be like, okay, I'll be myself. But then so much of us, and especially like if you have followed along with my videos, like this, you can tell why this hit me so deeply, is because I have been uncovering like, and like with the inner child work that I just mentioned, like I'm like, who am I really? Because I have all that gunk around me of who I've told myself I am. And so basically what he says is, he's like, F that, like don't remember yourself, because you're gonna remember who you think you are. He's like, you need to remember who you are. And he uses The Lion King because he's like, Simba thought he was the cause of his father's death, so then he runs away. He lives with Pumbaa and Timon, and he eats bugs his whole life. So then he thinks he eats bugs his whole life, and here he is like a carnivore and a lion. And then he goes off on his own, and he talks with his dad, Mufasa, who's in the sky, and he says, remember Simba, you know? And he doesn't say like, be yourself, Simba. Like he says, remember who you are. And he has to like sit in the stillness, and then all of a sudden it comes flooding back to him that he doesn't actually eat bugs. And I love the way that this guy phrased it in the video. And I'm new at this, and so I want to tag like the person that makes the video, but I screen recorded his video so you can see it. But since I'm posting it in like a carousel on Instagram, I don't know if I'll be able to post the full video, since I'll be posting a couple different screen recordings of impactful videos. And so hopefully it doesn't cut it off. If it cuts it off, DM me or message me, and I will send you the full one. And then I can even send you a link to the actual video, but I haven't figured that part out yet, just so you know, like as a side note. But he's like, what bugs are you eating that you shouldn't be eating? And I'm like, oh my God, this is so good, because this is like the last like 5 years of my life is like, oh, this is something about me, and like like that I think is about me because I've been told my whole life it's about me, or I went down this path because I was course corrected. And this is like heavily talked about in the last episode, of like mentioning something and being so excited and it's true to me. And like I go like this because I've learned to speak to my body. Like, yes, we have adverse like bodily reactions when we are forced to like sit in the stillness, because it's uncomfortable, it's freaking hard, and like trauma is stored in our body that we like literally can throw up, and then all of a sudden something feels cleared. Like energy is stored in us, and we have ways of extracting it that's like physical too. And so we can have adverse reactions, but we can also have like that, remember that pop I talked about in last episode? To recap, if you haven't heard it yet, I talk about when things pop. That's like my terminology for like a ping or like a nudge to do something. But like the pop for me is like an yes, follow it, or like a yes. So like when I hear something that like I've been asking for, or that like aligns with what I'm trying to follow for myself or do for myself, I get this like pop feeling that has always been so subtle, and it's getting louder. That's just how intuition is. It gets louder the more you learn how you communicate and how you get a yes or a no. And so for me, when I hear something or I'm like someone invites me to something, I will get like an instant like, no, or I will get like a boom, yes, like yes, like it's like almost like flabbergasting, like in my body, like I feel it right here. And so shoot, where was I going with the pop? Okay, backtrack. Okay, Simba, I hope this comes to me, and the bugs. Okay, I hope I get back to it. I will. But I'm just gonna go to the next sticky note because it flows into it, is the concept of mindfulness. So I have been seeing a therapist for 1.5, it feels so much longer, about 1.5 years. And she's freaking amazing. She was recommended me by someone I love and trust. And I couldn't see her because we know each other on like a personal level. And so I knew anyone that she recommended would be amazing. And she has been. I love her so much. She's helped me so much. And the concept of mindfulness has been a constant topic for her and I. And she read me a quote on our last session that I wrote down that will also be shared. And I just loved it because here I am having these like profound moments that just seem so seemingly obvious, like they should just be so obvious, but like they just hit different when you've cleared things out and when you learn how to listen to your body and how it reacts. And so this is the quote, and she was reading, I think she was doing some training. And so I think this is from the perspective of a therapist, but it still rings true. So it says, the funny thing about mindfulness is that it is so deceptively simple that you feel that you're doing nothing. And at the same time, you can have moments of clarity that years of working in therapy haven't produced. And if you just flip that, it's like years of being in therapy or years of self-work, whatever it is. But mindfulness is also like, I feel like mindfulness and stillness are very similar. But the mindfulness is like being aware and being mindful of what's going on around you, and like to not just like do things to do them, right? But we were talking and on the subject of mindfulness, and she was like, I wrote this down because I wanted to share it with you because I keep having these moments of clarity that I'm like, it's so funny. It seems so obvious. And that's what leads me to my next sticky note. It's obvious epiphanies. And so this is another video that I watched recently by this girl on Instagram that I love, love, love. Her name's Chelsea Explains. And she recently blew up, has hundreds of thousands of followers now. She might even be close to 1 million. And all she does is she shares like, she started off by sharing like babysitting tips. And she would just be like, hey, I'm the Michael Jordan of babysitting, and like listen to what I have to say, kind of a thing. And then she started to just talk about life hacks, and then just she just shares now like epiphanies that she has, and she's just so insightful. I feel like we would be such good friends. I love her so much, and she has also inspired me to do this also, because just watching her journey and how she blew up, but then she's also stayed true to who she is throughout it, and not just been like, oh, what goes viral? Yes, she pays attention and she's strategic. And in fact, I think she also has experience in like the branding marketing world. I think she works in that sector, or did work in that sector. And so she shared a video, which I will be sharing as well, about obvious epiphanies. And she was like, this is the year of obvious epiphanies. And it's like the best way I can describe those moments that you're like, oh my gosh, like this makes so much sense, but it's something that's like so obvious in your life that you should already know. And she shared like a story to give you like frame of reference. She shares a story of her friend calling her and being like, oh my gosh, like this seems so silly to tell you, but like my friends and family are what's most important to me, like not work, like, and it's like things like that I believe we have to clear again some of that like gunk I'm talking about, that like this outer identity that we have, maybe that's a good way of putting it, like an outer, I'm gonna write that down, outer identity that we have for ourselves to get to like who we really are. And I love the whole obvious epiphanies, because I do feel like if you're practicing mindfulness and you're practicing stillness, you're gonna have obvious epiphanies. And you know what? I actually have an example of my own. And this was with my bestie Callie again. We're talking on Marco Polo, and so remember my 2026, I'm like self-love, bodily love. And like, I've been doing my intermittent fasting. I've been doing my gua sha, which is like the first self-care I think I've ever truly done without being like, oh, I have to do self-care, and so I'm gonna take a bath kind of vibe that I've always felt like self-care felt like. I'm finally in a place, because of the stillness, that I think I'm slowly following those pops and like those pings and nudges of like what really feels good to me. And like right now in my life, not just like overall what self-care, like going to a spa, yes it is, but like in this moment in my life, like what's bothering me? What am I self-conscious about? Like what would make me feel better as a human? And if you know me personally, my face. Okay, we're gonna get deep. I didn't think I'd ever share this on here, but here we go. My face shape is probably what I am the most self-conscious about in my life, and I always have been, having like a square jaw. And so when I was thinking about like self-love and care, yes, I wanted to lose my baby weight with the intermittent fasting that was happening, but I've always been like, do I need reconstructive surgery on my jaw? Not that I would ever do that, I don't think, but it has certainly crossed my mind, because it's just always bothered me that I have a square jaw. And then I look at other humans and pop into comparison of like people who like literally their faces are like this big compared to mine. And I have like an extra 2 inches on each side, or 1.5 inches, whatever it is. But my whole life I was always told I had model cheekbones, that I had like the face shape of a model. But I never felt that. And so I always had these like conflicting feelings. And then when I gain weight, the first place I gain weight isn't my butt or thighs, it's my face. Like you can tell if I'm eating too much dairy, I've noticed that affects me. I get this bloat, I get this chin. And so like the gua sha thing felt like real self-care, because it's shaping my jawline better and it's draining all this extra fluid that I didn't know I was carrying. And so again, I shared the video that I have been doing on the gua sha on my Instagram. I found this routine that she did like a before and after of her in a pregnancy without the gua sha and a pregnancy with the gua sha. And when I was pregnant, I got very swollen here, but like if I already feel that way when I have too much dairy, imagine how I felt when I was pregnant and how self-conscious I was just about my face. And I mean, you can't hide that. You can't like hide that with a baggy t-shirt or baggy pants or anything. And so I would walk around kind of like in my head of just feeling like a piece of shit, honestly, because I'm like, I look like and feel so bad about myself. So sad to say that out loud. But anyways, like, so the gua sha like really hit self-care for me, right? And so an obvious epiphany that I had recently is another thing I've been wanting to concentrate on is my hair, because since having children, you know, if you've had kids, like you lose your hair, it falls out. And it had thinned. I got extensions years back, and I believe like it was tape in. So like the tape like slowly ripped out some of my hair. And so one thing that I'm like, I would just feel like, what would make me feel confident? Okay, like the jawline, great, let's do that. What would make me feel more confident? Okay, well, I guess it started with the intermittent fasting, then the gua sha. And then my next level was like, oh my gosh, my hair. And I had this, one of Mitch's cousins, actually, I remember this stuck with me. I remember her sharing with me that she was like, one year, she was like, I just want to concentrate on my hair. And like, this is the year of my hair. And I remember at the time being like, wow, because like I was so stuck in like the doing and the achieving and like the business end of things that I couldn't even imagine focusing on something like personal care like that. And I just remember being like, wow. And she has the most beautiful, gorgeous thong, long and thick hair. Oh my gosh, my brain just blended those two. Woof, that was funny. But so that was part of the next step. Now that I've gotten like the intermittent fasting and the gua sha like into my routine and like feeling good, I'm like, I want to concentrate on my hair. And that was another thing that I shared. I've been taking sea moss gel, which I shared the company. She's local, she's amazing. She makes like elixirs is how I originally found her. And then she started doing sea moss gel, but she used to have cystic acne. Maybe I'll share that one again. It's called Gypsy Elixirs. And so she used to have cystic acne, and so that's how she got into like medicinal mushrooms and medicinal like natural medicinal substances, and like she's fascinated by mushrooms. I think she's brilliant, and she makes all these little tinctures that like are all natural and like just wholesome. And so she started doing sea moss gel, and her hair has also gotten just so thick and long and just gorgeous. And so I bought sea moss gel for the first time. I've been eyeing it for like ever since she started rolling it out, maybe like a year, maybe less, I don't know. And finally bought it for myself for Christmas. And that's like when the hair journey started. And then my mother-in-law got me like hair supplements for Christmas too. And then that has been helping so much. But then this is where the obvious epiphany come in, okay? I love the backstory. I love the build up to make the aha or the story like have more of an impact. I like the story behind things. And so I tell you all of that because the epiphany, the obvious epiphany that I just had with my friend Callie is I'm talking to her and I realized I got onto this new shampoo and conditioner that's like made from like rice remnants, and it's also wholesome, and I've never heard of that. They're like bars of soap. And so I started to research it a lot, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I've never heard of it, but it like kind of fell into my lap, and then all of a sudden I'm activated again. And then I use like an aerosol can for I have like a dark dry shampoo that I use, and every single time I use it, it scares the crap out of me because first of all, I know that there's like cancerous stuff in aerosol cans, and like I've known that for years, but it's the only thing that I found that works, and it works good. And so I've stuck with my product, but I've always wanted to look into a powder. Anyways, another thing falls into my lap. I find this powder on Etsy that's like homemade, and like the reviews are great, and they have dark hair powder. And I'm like, so I ordered that, and it was only like $12 or something. And I was like really excited about that. And then, so then I hear about the rice, what do you call them? Bars of soap. And I've been wanting to get new shampoo and conditioner for years, also just never have. And then I'm talking to my friend Kelly, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, it's happening. Like I put out there that I want longer, stronger, healthier hair, like period. I didn't say how, I didn't say when or anything. I just said I want to concentrate on that. And here, a brand new shampoo and conditioner, a brand new dry shampoo fall into my lap that are all wholesome and more natural. I've always had trouble with taking like medications or anything because I'm like, or even skincare. I've never had a skincare routine my whole life because I've always had this weird like intuitive inkling of like, I don't know what's in that stuff. And I'm not in the medical field. I'm not in the like science region whatsoever. And I don't understand it. So like, I'm not going to do a whole skincare routine and not know what I'm putting on so I've only ever washed my face with water my whole life. And if that, when I was younger, I never washed it with water. So, and to this day, like the gua sha, and I use beef tallow now, is the only thing that I do. As like I just have like a lotion, and then I put it on before I do my gua sha routine, and that's it. That's all I do. And so anyways, and then my hair has been like, I think this is the longest it's been since I chopped it to like here, maybe 2-ish years ago. And I just felt like it kept breaking and dying and breaking and dying. And like, I don't know, it's just like all those like micro adjustments that I've been making for my hair. But then like now it's like, wait, hold on. I hear you. You're sending me things like for what I'm asking for. But if I'm not intentional and paying attention, I can miss it and just be like, oh, it's just an ad. Like, oh, it's just this. And it's like, wait. And that's like the biggest thing with intuition that I've learned also is if it asks or if it answers a question you've been asking, then it's a yes usually. And so like people are always like, well, how do you know between like your head and thinking and like something that's like your intuition saying yes or no? And there's a lot of different things that I've learned over time, but like for this example, it's like listen to your body, like which we've gone over, and then also like if it answers a question, like follow it. And maybe like it doesn't always need to be followed 100%. Like you don't always need to buy the thing. But I didn't buy the shampoo and conditioner, but I started researching rice bars. And I'm like, this is fascinating. Like, I've just never heard of this, right? Okay, those were some long-winded stickies, and that was my lately section. Now I'm moving on to the latest, which it ties in very nicely because when I was talking to my therapist about like the whole mindfulness and then like being yourself versus remembering and stuff, this kept coming up, which is so hilarious to me. Like I literally laughed out loud with my therapist because she's like, yeah, this kind of ties in like the whole doing versus being, like the stillness and like the flow of things is being. The doing is when you are feeling like you need to complete a list and do it like 100%, like how I say I always take things like one step further than completion. And I just laughed out loud because how I started this whole journey for myself and like this whole like self-awakening was because I learned about feminine and masculine energies, and I did like a whole program for a year, and I went on multiple retreats. I went to Dominican Republic and like Cancun, all learning about feminine energy versus masculine energy, which we need both, right? But the being is the feminine and the doing is the masculine. And then I just felt like I had this moment. I always describe it like this, like where everything's swirling and you have all this like stuff around you, and then all of a sudden you have this moment, there's your obvious epiphany, like it all just comes together. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because I went through that program and I was really fighting the doing versus the being the whole time. Like the program is about learning how to be, right? But I was so in my masculine at that time. And the analogy that I love the most about feminine and masculine energy is like a pendulum. And you can use this with like pretty much anything, but I love this analogy. It's like the pendulum is swinging, feminine and masculine. You like want a balance. You want to be like in the middle, right? And for women, it's like about 75% feminine, the rest is masculine, and then it's flip-flop for men. So like there's not a misconception of like I want to be feminine. There's also, or like fully 100% feminine energy. There is also such thing, and I had to learn this the hard way with the pendulum, is toxic femininity, which is when your pendulum, you like, for me, when I first learned about it, I'm like, this is what I've been like looking for my whole life. And like it's describing the difference between men and women and like how we're our own beings and we respond and we communicate differently. And often women try to treat men like they're misbehaving women. And that is why like we don't get each other, or we fight, or we get in that toxic femininity of like, I'm trying to be and be feminine and you're not understanding me. Like I watched people in the program that I knew really well go through just that also. And so it's really about like experiencing it and practicing it. But like I am finding like the key to it is the stillness. Like that has been like my missing piece. And like, that's why I haven't catered my manifestation just yet, but I want to cater whatever my manifestation is for the challenge of Return to Your Magic around stillness. Because of that, because that's what I was missing. I would try to be still. I would try to like sit there, but then those like bodily reactions that I referenced before would happen. Like I would physically feel ill, right? And so my therapist kindly reminded me of, yeah, well, this is like the doing versus the being. And like right now you're going more into the being and you're really practicing. And it's like anything else. You have to like slowly introduce things, and it's like those micro adjustments, those micro like changes that you make that like you don't know where you're going and you can't plan where you're going, but when you're trying to do, you think you can create your path. But the being is going where you're led and where like energy is flowing and where you're being called to go, and the things you're being called to do in a way of answering the call or doing what feels good to you and your body. And when you do that, you can never fathom your path. But like, I feel like we as a culture are so determined and we're so achievement oriented that we want to like pave the path ourselves. Whereas like there's a quote by Steve Jobs. I don't know exactly, but it's basically like, you can't connect the dots until you're looking backwards, and like you can't predict the dots. You can't do that. It's just like you listen to your intuition and go where you're guided, and then when you look back, you can connect the dots, and it makes a lot of sense. And you're like, yeah, that's how I got here. But you could have never predicted that for yourself. And I feel like our culture is stuck in trying to predict things. And that is the perfect segue actually into my next sticky of just being on autopilot. Again, I think as our culture, like we don't realize that we even are. And then let's see, I have a note on the back. Okay, and so we don't realize we're in autopilot, right? And like, again, last week's or episode 6, I talk about this without saying the word autopilot so much. And I literally talk about being in autopilot in a car. And for frame of reference, like I talk about being in a car and how much stimulus we have going on, blinkers, traffic lights, pedestrians, all these things that we just like go home and we don't realize what we're doing, and we're not like intentional or like enjoying our mountain views. Like right now I'm looking out a window and we have these like this vast mountain range here in Utah, right? And but like we just go in autopilot and we just get home and we don't know how we do half the time. And so the autopilot is the being too masculine in the pendulum and like doing the things that we think we need to do and like kind of like force energy. And then if we're feminine, then it's like we're forcing the being too. And you can't force being, and that's so hard because like, you know what being is, you learn about what it looks like, but you can't force it. You can't be masculine about the being, which is someone like me that was like operating 99% in my masculine when I found feminine and masculine energy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're putting to words like what I've been missing in my life, like on how I want to be, but I don't know how to be that. Like innately I want to be that, and I know that that's who I am, like feminine energy wise. And I can certainly get more into that too. Leave me a comment if you want me to get more into like feminine versus masculine, or any of the stickies that I've done so far. If you want to hear more on stuff, always just leave me a comment or do a DM. I'd love to hear feedback. And it's so funny. This is like the last epiphany that my little obvious epiphany that I had in this therapy session was we're talking about autopilot, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And she goes, well, how do you feel? She poses a question like, well, how do you feel it's affected you and Mitch, like with your, like the stillness that you're experiencing and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, do you feel like you're still going on the same path? Because I have had, or she didn't really phrase it like going on the same path, or like, do you still feel like you guys are like in step with each other? She didn't say that either, but that's the question she asked, the feeling of it. And so she asked this question, and I'm like, oh my gosh, another obvious epiphany. This is so freaking hilarious. And I'm like, we were supposed to talk about the autopilot. We were supposed to talk about the mindfulness and all these things, because I'm realizing, and I've always had this visual with Mitch and I, like, because I've been exploring like the metaphysical arena, and I always get so scared if I dive into the metaphysical stuff that I'm really fascinated by, that like we will be going in this like lockstep together, and then all of a sudden I will veer a little bit this way, and then he'll veer a little bit whatever he's interested in, and we'll get further and further apart. So like communication has been super important to me, about like letting him know where I'm at and what I'm learning about. And like, I don't ever want to like go a direction without him. I want him to, even if he's not interested, I want him to at least know what's going on. And we have so many talks about that. So she poses that question, and then I have this like obvious epiphany, and I again laugh out loud. I'm just like, this is so funny because we are actually in step, and he is with me, and he is having his own experience in different forms and just looks nothing like mine. But like the communication piece is there, and that's like ultimately like what I want is like for us to just like always like show true love and true care and adoration for each other, which we do. And it just looks differently, right? But I had this like visual, again, my clairvoyancy coming in of the tortoise and the hare. I'm like, well, I have stuff come in, like the downloads and like the pops come in, and I go into autopilot and I go into the doing, and I just take off like the hare, and then I like backtrack or like take a nap, or like, oh, it's too much, so like the nap happens, or like, oh, I backtrack, like that's not the direction I want to go. And I'm just this hare zipping around, and Mitch is this steady tortoise who is still where he was, but he is still moving forward. And if you know my husband, that is like so freaking funny, because that is him. He is like the most steady, reliable human, but he is also growth oriented. So it's not like he's like a turtle that's staying still. I more so like mean the tortoise and the hare for like with the whole doing versus the being. Like he is probably one of the people, like when I was learning about feminine masculine energy, I'm like, that's why he's so magical. It's because he has the feminine energy, the percentage that like we're supposed to have, but he's like that 75-80% male masculine energy. And that's why I'm so attracted to him, is because he does have both, and he does have like he can do both, which we see the toxic masculinity too, right? Like where their pendulum swings all the way to masculine, and they're like the I can do anything, and I'm gonna hustle, and I kick ass. I don't know. That was horrible impersonation, but I think you catch my drift. And so anyways, I had this analogy, and then to put icing on the cake of this analogy, I'm gonna have to dig up this picture. In elementary school, which is where my daughter is at now, the same elementary school I went to, we did a school play, The Tortoise and the Hare. And guess who was the effing hare? Me. I was the hare. I had a, what do you call that? Like a loofah as a tail. And then my mom and I made like a headband with like cut out ears. And I wore like a gray sweatsuit, and I was the hare. And I'm like, I've always been the hare. And me and my therapist are just laughing so hard, because she's like, I love this foreshadow that like your life, like she's like, your life has been foreshadowing this for you. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this could not be more hilarious to me. Oh my gosh. So I do have one last sticky note. I busted through these. I have 11 of them, but I want to bring this up, and I think this is a perfect point. I just wanted to go a little bit more into this, and we're like almost at the hour, so I might go a little bit over. But the biggest topic with me and my therapist, and I'm like, do you talk to all your clients about this? Or like, is this just the theme of my life? Because we have determined that like my psychological flexibility is very low. Like I am very inflexible. I have all these thoughts and all these things happening. And the way she dissected that for me is with the ACT hexaflex. And the ACT hexaflex is, I think it's acceptance commitments therapy. Acceptance and commitment therapy. I'm gonna have to look that up. I should have looked that up before. But I actually printed this bad boy. This is like the diagram she shared with me, because it was the best diagram that she had or found. I want to recreate this in Canva and like share it with her, because it's very pixelated and blurry, if you can tell. But I'm gonna give you the gist of this, because this has changed my life, and I actually printed it to have in front of me in my therapy sessions, because it's been such a consistent topic with her and I that it didn't really stick for me until probably like at our year mark. So more recently, I feel like I can quote it, I understand it, I feel it, I now quote it to myself in my head, and I'm able to like kind of be like talk to myself in my head and be like, now, like this is what you're doing. And this has helped me so freaking much. I'm sure this will get brought up multiple times. So this is the ACT hexaflex, the psychological flexibility, like diagram, if you will. Okay, so the black is where you want to be and what you want to shoot for, and the red is what is happening when you're being inflexible. So if you're in the red, it throws off all of these. And like, so it has like the connections here because they're all intertwined. And so the reason that she brought this up, and I will share this too, so you don't have to like screenshot it or whatever. I will maybe make one in Canva. We'll see if I have time to do that, because I am hoping that you can see this less pixelated. But anyways, so in the black, like for example, it's like presence. So like if you are being present, you are not thinking about the past or future. So like she will dissect when I come to her and talk to her, and she'll be like, yeah, like, so you're living in like the future or like the past. And she never like calls things out like that because she's brilliant. She makes me call it out. Myself, I like always get to the realizations, but like if you are out of whack, you cannot be like with this diagram, you cannot be psychologically flexible. So like if you are thinking in the past or the future, you are inflexible, which if you are not living with it accordance to your, like, and again, I am very specific. It's not just like with your values, they have to be yours. Like the ones that like, you have to uncover your values. I've done so many values exercises with her, and we've never finished one yet because I like truly don't know what my values are. Like I'm discovering them in my 30s right now. And so if you are not living in accordance to your values, you have a lack of direction, right? And that's another thing I've been experiencing for years and years is like, oh, I think I'll go this way because people tell me I'm good at that. Like, oh, I'll go this way. And I think I'm good at that because I did this in the past, like this job. And so it just makes sense, but it's not like me and what I value. And that's where I'm at. And that's why I'm doing these videos, is because I value conversation. I value connection. And that's the point, right? And the reason behind things, right? Like, because the reason behind this when I first started wasn't those. My motivation for it was like, oh, this is a new direction I'm going. And I was very much so treating it like a business and like not showing up truly as I wanted to. There was other things too, but anyways, let's keep going. And then committed action. Where is that? Right here. If you are not like committed to like the action you're going to take, then you feel stuck. And that's the red. So when you feel stuck or you feel like you can't make a decision, then it's because you're out of whack in these areas. So if you want to be able to make a committed decision, then you need to be like, okay, are my values in check? Okay, well, am I being present with the situation? Okay, and then the other things I'm gonna go through. So the next one, this has been a big focus for me lately, is self as context is in the black. So that's where you want to be. So it's kind of like I wanna see the situation, like the aerial view. I wanna see like it for what it is. Versus the self as content. I get stuck here a lot in all the nitty gritty little teeny details. So like when I used to tell her stories, I would literally out loud argue with myself. She wouldn't have to say anything. And I would just argue and be like, well, yeah, but this little detail like affected how she felt. And so like, that's probably why she said that. And like, I just pick up on so much. And again, from last week, like the sticky note of the overly, I want to say committed because of this, the overly, hold please, brain processing, not overly sensitive, and will come to me. But I talked last week about how I'm overly considerate, there we go. Overly considerate of other people. That really is this category for me. So if I'm stuck in the details, I'm in the other red. I'm stuck. I can't take action. I have a lack of direction. And I'm stuck in maybe the future of what someone's going to think or how they're going to react or whatever. So then now this is, these are all just so good. I just love this. So diffusion is the other section for black. So how she's taught me how to do this is when you have like a thought that comes up, you say to yourself like, well, maybe, like, so you kind of dissipate and take it away from being factual. Or the other thing that she's taught me is you say, I'm noticing at the beginning. So when I'm telling stories, again, getting caught in the details, I'll say things like, I think this. And the way to diffuse that thought is to say, I'm noticing that I think this, because then all of a sudden to your brain, it becomes like, oh wait, maybe it doesn't have to be true. Like I'm not fusing it. And so like if you are in the red and you're not diffusing thoughts, then you have cognitive fusion. And this has helped Mitch and I so much the last couple months, because I was assessing the way I was reacting to him, doing things, saying things, like his energy is because of fused thoughts I have about his reaction or what he will think. So again, I'm in the future, right? I'm thinking of the future of how he's gonna react based off past experiences. And then I'm feeling like I'm caught in the details, I'm over analyzing it, and I have these fused thoughts that aren't necessarily true. Boom, baby, I freaking love this. And this is the last one. This is where it all started for me, was acceptance. So when you just accept things for how they are, like this is the black, but experiential avoidance is where I live, my friends. I live in avoidance. So like, just with moving forward, or like back to the example of like the stillness with the challenge, I would have this experiential avoidance because I would say, oh, I can't finish it in like the full length. Oh, I like, again, like feeling stuck, like instead of the acceptance of, I can do this challenge, but I'm gonna chip away at it because of the constraints in my life right now, and like due to not wanting to wake up the kids, and like I can do it, but like the acceptance piece of like, but it's gonna look this way and that's okay. And that also diffuses like some thoughts of, I can't do this because my life's too busy, right? And then it also helps me be in the present moment when I'm doing it, instead of the future of like, I'm gonna wake up the kids, or like, why am I taking time for myself when the kids need me, blah, blah, blah. And then it's in line with my values of like, I want to be a better mom. I want to be able to figure out some of these reactive things that are going on in my life, and this is a step towards that. And then I have committed action. I'm actually like now, I had another obvious epiphany of like, I'm a night owl, and I'm now like having committed action more so, because I'm like, if I can't sleep and I have my alarm set for 5:45 and want to wake up and I can't sleep, I'm gonna just roll out of bed and I'm gonna just go downstairs and do it instead of in the morning. Because why would I fight myself at night and say, I can't sleep for an hour, when I have all these, like I always say like, I'm ignited, like my flame is going, and my thoughts are going, the stuff I want to be thinking about in the morning. Why wouldn't I just go downstairs and then sleep more in the morning? Like it's the same thing. And, instead of like, again, like the programming of, and like the programming of the doing, and like what is success is waking up at 5 a.m. That's a big one for me. Like success is having a good early morning, like, but like the acceptance of like, what if it doesn't have to look that way, right? Oh my gosh, I got through it. There's the Act Hex Flex. I love it so much, and I wanted to share it because I like at some point in time it will be framed in my house, because it's something that like, now that I understand, like in therapy, I start to therapy myself, I'll just be like, oh my gosh, like it's not in alignment with my values, and it will just be like those obvious epiphanies. And yeah, I feel like I am having the year of obvious epiphanies, just like Chelsea said on that video I'm gonna share. And I love how she says that, because I listened to this video and actually my very first thought was like, holy cow, this is exactly what I want to do with my podcast, like with my little chit chat sessions. Like this is what I want to do, is I want to share all those obvious epiphanies. But for me, and like where I come in, is I like to share the details and like the backstory of how I got there, because I know how much that helps me to hear like another human sharing their human experiences, instead of you just see the end result. You just see like, oh, like they're great and they're successful, and oh, I wish I could get there. It's so far away, but you don't see again the dots and how they got there, like the dots that were connected. And I want to share those dots, and they do seem jumpy, but I love, love, love talking about this kind of stuff, and I could all day. And so, thanks so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you made it to this point. Please, as always, will you leave me a comment of like something that stood out to you, or will you tell me something you want to hear more about? Like, I would love to hear feedback. And then I would also just love to know people are listening. That will fuel me to keep going. And as always, thank you for sticking around, and I will see you next time.